let's talk about, we kind of early on like what a link is, but what in your definition, because Google doesn't really define this in detail, what makes a good link?
So I like to say link building is an art. So A, authority, right? And I'll get into each one. Authority, R, relevance, T, traffic, right? So authority, you want to look for a site that's been around for a while, right? Something that I call crusty. I think Google puts a lot of authority into sites that have been around for longer than 3 years. They're there because they're a real website, as opposed to I'm a website so that I can link to you and whatever. And so I think it looks at that, and then it also looks at the referring domains that website has as well. So if this site has, hundreds of, domain ratings of, DR50 and up, it's looking at the authority of the referring domain. So you want to make sure that the backlink you're obtaining is from a website that has its own authority. That's number one. And then relevance, I honestly think, is the most important. So if you're a PI lawyer, right, and car accidents are kind of usually the highest, level, bread and butter type of PI there is. So you want to kind of look for a motor vehicle blog, like, I don't know, carsrus.com or something like that. Something that's really talking about that industry. And also has referring domains that are relevant to that site as well. So you want to look at that. And then also, health sites, lifestyle sites, those types of websites are kind of what a PI injury lawyer, obviously legal is the top one. So those are the kind of sites that a PI lawyer kind of want to look at. And then for traffic, I always say a real website has at least 1,000 in monthly organic traffic. Anything below that is probably a newer site. It hasn't built that traction up yet. And I think Google looks at the traffic as like, this traffic is a SEO, or not SEO, it's an authority signal. And so it looks to make sure that the sites that you're getting on they've got good traffic. So those are the three.
I'll kind of give you my own analysis here. So authority, that first on the A, we'll use your art description here. So the A, this is one that can be manipulated a lot with expired domains and people just cranking no follow links at a site. And so if you look at it just alone, it may not be a good indication. You got to kind of look at all three of these. It's like a Venn diagram where it all kind of fits in the middle. And then you've got relevancy. So if the site doesn't, there's not a natural reason for it to link to your attorney website, then you shouldn't receive that link. And also Google's not going to trust it. For example, these news sites that just take any type of content, a lot of times Google doesn't favor those. Now there's definitely exceptions to that, like these giant editorials like your Forbes. And then traffic. The reason I like traffic is because if the site has traffic, then Google favors it to some degree. They could have a super high DR, but if they don't have any traffic, it's not going to be a good link. So I'm with you on all of those. I think a lot of times other SEO specialists, when they're dealing with their clients, will just say, hey, we got a DR50 link. Okay, well, let me see the content. Oh, well, why is it linking to me? The content's terrible. Or, oh, the site doesn't have any traffic. And these are some of the things that you got to look at.
Yeah, another thing I would say to look at is it's really easy, too. You take a website, go to their About Us page. If they don't have an About Us page, you'd probably want to move on anyway. Especially, it goes back to EAT. You want to make sure that the site is trying to build an authority or leaning into what their index is trying to rank for. So if it's a car blog and you go to their About Us page and it's like poorly written, grammatically incorrect, and they're not really talking about anything having to do with motor vehicles, and it's just like, SEO, lifestyle blog, whatever, that's kind of a red flag to me. So I think that's an easy thing for someone to do if they're trying to figure out the relevancy, obviously the domain name, and look at the majority of the posts and pages on that site, but also look at their About Us page and see what they're talking about there.
I think, too, when you go to a site and you're choosing if you're going to try to to obtain a link from this, if you're doing like the manual efforts, is like, are they curating their site? Is there a curation process? Because, from what I've seen, and you could speak to this too, the better sites, they have an extreme editorial review process. They don't just let anybody post to them. You have to have great content. You have to go through this editorial process. So to me, a lot of times that's a red flag.
Yeah, and like I always say, I want to work with sites similar to my site. So I'm not linking out to everybody. The personal injury lawyers that are listening to this, they're not linking out to everybody. So you kind of want to work with a site that cares as much about the quality of their site as you do.
Yep. And next I want to shift to, first, what is this, a cut and dry toxic link? Maybe it's like the opposite of this. And then your thoughts on what the disavow file is and your thoughts on it.
Yeah, so my opinion of a toxic link, there's a bunch of the things. So an exact match, which is a keyword that you're trying to rank for. So we'll say car accident lawyer. Exact match, site-wide link, which means it appears on every single page of a website in a sidebar. Now, you don't see this too often, but I have still seen these. So an exact match link, that clearly looks like spam. That to me is a toxic, or if it's in the footer and you just see, like, you're looking down and there's just a random exact match link, like, go over here for car accident attorneys. Why is that there? If not to spam Google. And then I also, so hidden text. So there are people out there that will just hide your anchor text in a bunch of content. And so, like, you can't even see it, but it's there. That's kind of sketchy. And then also, this is one that I think a lot of people probably don't think about, but I think it's more toxic as we move forward in SEO. Our press release links, I think obviously it's fine. Like Mueller even came out and said, we ignore these because we know they're paid. However, if you do a press release and you riddle it with a bunch of links, it's not just like a branded link, talking about your firm, that's fine. But if it's just like car accident attorney, personal injury attorney, geo-modified Houston personal injury lawyer covered in links, that actually could end up hurting you because it's now a press release. Google already knows those are paid, and you're just spouting those out across, the search engine result pages. So I think those could potentially be toxic as well. And then for the disavow. So what disavow basically is you can use Google Search Console or use another tool. You can use SEMrush, Ahrefs to kind of populate what they think is a toxic link. And then you can basically create a CSV file from that research, and then you can send it to Google and say, hey, can you neutralize these links for us? I don't personally believe anyone really needs to do that unless you received a manual penalty from Google. If you haven't and you're kind of worried, your traffic's dipping or whatever, I don't think it's because of the links that you find in that toxic backlink or a disavow file. And what I would say is, I think Google is neutralizing those links naturally anyway, or they're ignoring them. So you don't really need to send that file to them.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I think John Mueller's been really public about this. And this is why I get really frustrated, because a lot of these SEO specialists are going to email a client, prospect them, and say, oh, your links are spam. That's why you're not ranking. No, it's actually Google algorithmically ignores those and they're not passing authority. They just need better links. And one of the first things that we do, and there's some really prominent agencies that do this, is they'll upload a disavow file. One of the first things that we do, there's no manual penalty, we go delete that file. And because we let Google determine what a good link is. If someone's linking to the site, we're not going to just automatically shut down these links. And so I think that's a big, big no-no. I think a lot of people do it. Let's talk about what attorneys can do, right? So what are some of the actions? A lot of the attorneys listening, it's very common for us when we speak to them. They're like, yeah, you're building all these links, and we're happy with the links we're receiving, but I've got this free time, and I want to contribute. What can I do as an attorney to go build links myself?
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of times, people forget the impact of local link building. And that's something that's really easy for a personal injury lawyer or any lawyer to really do. You can go out and look for, business associations in your area, the Chamber of Commerce's, There's a bunch of, again, search operators are amazing to use for this. And we can always go into another podcast discussing those. But yeah, just kind of do local outreach to the websites in your geo that have their own authority. And those are great sites for not only helping Google understand that you're an authority in that geo, but also you can get natural referrals from those sites as well. And obviously traffic going to your site is always a good thing for SEO, and for referrals are great. Like, who doesn't want those? And a lot of those are going to give you a lot of referrals because they're going to get a lot of people going to those sites to find information locally.